What's up, team? This is Ro, your best friend at JMSB. So here I was asked a question for COMM 220, Analysis of Markets. Let's have a look. So this question is being asked by a valued member of Team Success, Mr. Scott Spector. Scott would like to know, simple question, but why do consumers lose surplus area B when there's a price ceiling? Likewise for area C for producers with a price floor. To help you understand this concept, the very first thing I'd recommend to do is to first visualize a market diagram. So imagine I showed you the market for any good or service where we've got a supply curve and a demand curve. Let's start by talking about buyers. What exactly is consumer surplus? Understand that consumer surplus is the added benefit that buyers get by being able to buy a product for a price that is cheaper than what they are willing to pay for it. So for example, if you were this first buyer in the market who's willing to pay $100 for this product, if the market price is $60, it's as though this first buyer would have a surplus of $40. So it's really just the difference between what you're willing to pay and what you're getting to pay. Now that you've understood that, what you would also want to know is how do you locate the consumer surplus in any market diagram. The GPS for consumer surplus is to locate the area that is below your demand curve, above the market price, and on the left of the market quantity. So at the original equilibrium, it should be obvious to us that the consumer surplus is this shaded area. It is the area that is bounded below your market demand curve, above the price of 60, and on the left of this equilibrium quantity. And now the idea is to ask ourselves, how does this surplus change the moment that a price ceiling is imposed in the market? A price ceiling is a maximum price. Effective price ceilings are going to appear below equilibrium. So for example, if I were to add a price ceiling in this example, at this price, P max, the consequence in the market is that the quantity is going to be lowered and the price is going to be lowered. So the new equilibrium would be right here, where this maximum price cuts your supply curve. And now that you've identified the new equilibrium, we can label some areas, such as area A, area B, and area C. Once we've done this, I would recommend to identify the consumer surplus once this maximum price is imposed. Understand that the directions haven't changed. We're still trying to stay below the demand curve, above the price, and on the left of quantity. The only difference is that now the price is this P max and the quantity is this lower quantity. So if I were to follow this GPS once again, the revised consumer surplus would be this trapezoid that I've outlined in blue. And now if we were to do a simple comparison of the new consumer surplus and the old consumer surplus, we can observe how it has changed. Try to realize that area A was not part of the green triangle, but it is part of the blue trapezoid. So that should lead you to believe that buyers have gained area A. Area B was part of the triangle, but notice how it's not part of the trapezoid. So what that means is that buyers are losing area B. So they've gained A, but they have lost B. So I hope that explanation helps, and if it does, let's move on now and talk about how that would apply for producers in the case of a price floor. Once again, to explain how producer surplus is changing, I'd recommend to set up a market diagram and show off your minimum price. So your minimum price, or a price floor, is going to appear above the equilibrium. And notice what it's doing to the equilibrium in the market. We're essentially raising the price and we are lowering the quantity. The producer surplus is a measure of the benefit that sellers get by being able to charge more than what they're willing to accept. So for example, the producer surplus for the first seller who's willing to charge 20 is simply going to be 60 minus 20. So this first seller is able to charge 40 more than what they're willing to accept, so that would be the surplus for that seller. The way that we identify the area that represents producer surplus is simply by following this GPS. The idea is to stay above the supply curve, below the market price, and again on the left of quantity. So prior to the price control, the producer surplus was this triangle, as it was the triangle that is bounded by the market price, the quantity, and our supply curve. If I were to follow this GPS once again, but using this new equilibrium given the minimum price, the new producer surplus would be this trapezoid. So again, notice that I'm staying above the supply, I'm staying on the left of the quantity, and I'm staying below the price. So once again, we can label some areas. I can call that box area A, this little triangle area B, and this other triangle area C. And if we compare the trapezoid, the new producer surplus, to the triangle, which was the old producer surplus, we should be able to infer how it has changed. It should be obvious to us that area A is part of the trapezoid, but it's not part of the triangle. And so we can argue that sellers have gained area A. Area C was part of the surplus before, but notice how it's not part of the surplus after. And so now it should be obvious that they're losing area C. Alright guys, I hope you found that explanation to be helpful. I know a lot of you have a test coming up early next week, and so hopefully it's going to help with the studying. If you ever have any friends that are struggling with the course, you know exactly what to do. Make sure you're tagging them in this video in the comments, and that you're sharing this video in other groups. That's what really encourages me to keep making these videos. In the meantime guys, study well, keep well, row out.